If voting made a difference, they wouldn't let us do it. An intriguing statement, isn't it? This quote, often misattributed to Mark Twain, is a provocative challenge to our assumptions about power, agency, and democracy. It suggests a sense of futility, a feeling that our actions may not have the impact we believe them to. This sentiment is a perfect introduction to our topic today. Learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is a psychological phenomenon, a state of mind where an individual believes they are powerless to change their circumstances, even when they have the means to do so. This concept was studied by psychologist Martin Seligman, who observed this behavior in his research subjects. Imagine the implications of powerlessness on a broader scale, on society, on politics, and our mental health. What happens when we collectively feel that our actions, like voting, don't make any difference? This brings us to the idea of learned helplessness, a concept that psychologist Martin Seligman studied extensively. So, what is this learned helplessness that Seligman researched? Let's take a closer look. Martin Seligman, a renowned psychologist, coined the term learned helplessness in the late 60s. His groundbreaking research began with a series of experiments on animals, particularly dogs. Seligman observed that when animals were subjected to adverse situations from which they had no escape, they would eventually stop trying to avoid the discomfort. Even when opportunities for escape were later presented, these animals would not take action. They had learned to be helpless. This concept doesn't just apply to animals. Seligman and his team began to see parallels in human behavior. People who are repeatedly exposed to uncontrollable and inescapable adverse situations can also learn to be helpless. They may feel they have no control over their circumstances, leading to passive acceptance and inaction, even when there are clear opportunities for action. The discovery of learned helplessness was a significant leap forward in our understanding of human behavior and mental health. It has influenced the development of theories and treatments for conditions such as depression and anxiety. The concept has also found relevance in various other fields like education, organizational behavior, and politics. But what does this have to do with society? Let's dive deeper. We might wonder how learned helplessness applies to us humans in our everyday lives. You see, our society and the media play substantial roles in shaping our perspectives, sometimes unfortunately breeding a sense of learned helplessness. This is particularly evident when we are bombarded by an avalanche of information, some of which is obviously false or contradicts our senses. Imagine a constant stream of apparent misinformation that you can't oppose or refute. It's creating a sense of living in a world that seems beyond your control. We're told that things are a certain way, and that there's nothing we can do about it. This, in essence, is a form of psychological manipulation that can lead to learned helplessness. Furthermore, our sense of justice is often challenged when we witness events that blatantly contradict it. Such instances can induce a sense of helplessness, making us feel like mere spectators in a world run from behind the curtains. Now, this doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, like water wearing down a rock. Over time, this steady drip of outright lies and injustice can erode our belief in our ability to effect change, leading us to adopt a distorted version of reality. The effects of such a state of mind can be quite detrimental, not only to the individual, but also to society. Learned helplessness doesn't merely exist, it has far-reaching consequences. It's like a shadow that quietly creeps up, casting a gloomy spell over one's mental health and well-being. Imagine being trapped in a maze with no exit. That's what learned helplessness can feel like. It can lead to feelings of despair and alienation, a breeding ground for depression. Anxious thoughts can also surface, fueled by the belief that nothing one does or says really matters. The world begins to feel unmanageable, unpredictable, and even hostile. This anxiety can evolve into a chronic state, a constant undercurrent that saps the joy out of life. Moreover, learned helplessness can birth other mental health issues. It can trigger a sense of worthlessness and ultimately lead to a decline in self-esteem. A person can feel like a powerless puppet, their strings pulled by an unseen hand. And what's more, it doesn't stop at the individual level. The ripple effects of learned helplessness extend far beyond the individual. When a collective sense of powerlessness pervades society, it can have a profound impact on the way we function as a whole. Feeling helpless makes people less likely to take initiative and responsibility for what happens around. This makes society less capable of addressing collective challenges. Second, decision-making. If individuals feel their actions don't matter, they may disengage from important decision-making processes like voting or community involvement. This can result in decisions that don't reflect the collective will or serve the common good. Lastly, societal well-being. Learned helplessness can foster a climate of apathy and disillusionment, diminishing our collective sense of hope and resilience. This can erode community ties, mutual trust and cohesion. So, the cost of learned helplessness to society is significant, but is there a way out? Can we protect ourselves and combat learned helplessness? The good news is, learned helplessness is not a life sentence. Like any other learned behavior, it can be modified, and the process begins with awareness. Recognizing patterns of helplessness in our thoughts and actions is the first step towards breaking free. On a personal level, one can combat learned helplessness by reframing the perceptions of control and capability, and by engaging in actions that are aligned with one's values. This process may require setting specific, measurable and achievable goals and engaging in actions that move one towards these goals, even in the face of obstacles or doubt. The key here is showing flexibility in strategies when needed, but steadfastness in the pursuit. On a societal level, we can challenge learned helplessness by a culture of empowerment. This means promoting critical thinking and courage. It also means advocating for meritocracy and justice. Furthermore, access to accurate and unbiased information is essential to counter the effect of disinformation. Remember, knowledge and courage are the first steps towards overcoming it. Empowerment, the key that unlocks the door to overcoming learned helplessness, is in the core of the matrix of well-being. This model suggests that our well-being is not static but dynamic, constantly influenced by our attitudes, actions and environment. It is about taking control of our lives, making decisions that align with our values and goals, and believing in our ability to make a difference. It's about recognizing our worth and potential and using them to drive positive change, not just in ourselves, but in our communities as well. It's about breaking free from the shackles of inertia and reclaiming our power. In the next couple of videos, we'll return to the topic of empowerment. Stay tuned.
Matrix of well-being. Live the life you create.